Today, we're making curry pastes of the 5 major Thai curries in the English-speaking world. The red, yellow, green, Panang, and Massaman. And all 5 of them, to some extent, share the same base. So today, we'll first attempt to perfect the base and dress it differently to form the 5 major curries. Let's do it. So, first up, we have some white peppercorn. And to go the extra mile, it's beneficial to toast them just for a minute on a non-stick to remove the excess moisture and to really bring out the taste from the essential oil. So, simply, medium heat, 1 minute. Now, pesto and mortar, the white peppercorn, they go in. And you always want to start from the driest to the wettest ingredient to give you maximum friction when you pound. Curry paste is not something I would make with a food processor because no matter how sharp the blades, you'll never puncture the cell membranes and really break them apart to extract the flavors like you do with a pesto and mortar. Similar to when you make pesto, it's never the same. Now, another added benefit of this method, which if you're making curry paste for the first time, I highly recommend you to take advantage of, is because we're not adding the spicy elements until the very end. You could afford to taste as you go. You have a better understanding of what each ingredient is bringing to the table. And with that knowledge, the next time you make your paste, you could adjust accordingly. Now, next up, we have lemongrass, which is so fragrant and brings so much to the table. Now, with lemongrass, it's very important that you remove the tougher outer leaves and we only use the tender core inside. Lemongrass is very similar to a leek, so the green part is chewy and not very flavorsome, and you want the white part for your curry pastes. Normally I would say pound them with the back of your knife, but this is going to be properly pounded, so we can even skip that step. Now, the finer you go, the easier your job becomes later on, so take your time, use a sharp knife. I'm going to list the recommended measurements in the description, so I don't waste your time giving you measurements here. But again, like I've said many times, taste when you cook. You are the best judge of your own palate. If a person living in Thailand who's been eating spicy food all his or her life tells you the correct amount of chilies to use, why blindly trust that person when you could taste yourself? Like once you get to the tough green part, you could even feel the change in texture, and that's when we move on. It's way too tough. Perfect. Now, lemongrass, there you go in. Even if I'm not doing 5 pastes at the same time, this is how I would recommend you do your curry paste, just to have more control over how spicy it becomes at the very end. Once again, we pound as we go. With something hot like the lemongrass or the galangal, unlike how you normally would do a pesto or soft herbs, it's mostly the up and down motion that will help you form the paste. Only when you've softened all the ingredients, you switch to the grinding. And this is when we can salt for the first time, again to help us get more friction. Next up, we have the galangal. I cannot insist enough that ginger is not a substitute for galangal just because they look slightly similar. Taste-wise, they have nothing in common. Any recipe that tells you you could substitute this for ginger, stop reading. They don't know what they're talking about. If you couldn't find galangal, I'd rather you skip it completely. And galangal you could buy outside of Asia tend to be on the older side. So I would peel it quite aggressively just to get rid of the really fibrous outside. Now, once again, the finer you go now, the less work you have in a tiny bit. This is the one occasion you could actually afford to buy most of the ingredients frozen. Normally, frozen vegetables have the drawback of broken cell membranes because of the extreme low temperature. But because we are essentially aiming to puncture the membranes anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's go. Once again, we salt. Again, if you're doing this for the first time, I would set aside the correct amount of salt and salt from that container. So at least you have a guideline in terms of how not to go overboard. This is not something you want extremely salty because when you actually make the curry, you can salt the curry itself. And by the way, curry paste in Thailand is not strictly limited to making curries. It's a very versatile seasoning that could be used in many dishes, which hopefully in the coming weeks we could demonstrate 1 or 2. Perfect. Now, next up, my personal favorite, which also happens to be the hardest one to find, coriander roots. The actual roots, which is also the star of the show in the Thai beef salad dressing. But unlike the Thai beef salad, which I recommended that you substitute that with the stalks, if you couldn't find these, just skip them, because coriander stalks has a much worse water to flavor ratio and will end up introducing way too much moisture to the paste. Nowadays, you could find these, by the way, in most Thai supermarkets. And you want mostly the roots, so once you get to the stem side, you stop. Now we go again. Now, next up, we have the kaffir lime zest. Once again, something you could buy from a Thai supermarket. These are extremely fragrant. The fresh smell that you associate with Thai cooking probably came from this. And again, to help us get a head start, I'm gonna microplane this. This is probably one of my favorite smells. This was a gift, by the way, from the very kind lady who owns our neighborhood Thai supermarket. So thank you. She also stopped me from buying the spicier kind of Thai chilies because she knew they would kill me. This thing is so fragrant, it's crazy. Once punctured, you almost get this medicinal smell. Now, the even wetter ingredients. First up, we have a bit of shallots. Some recipes in Thailand actually call for a lot of shallots and garlic, but I often find you get more control just starting with a small amount, and you can always increase the taste and sweetness of these two in the actual curry. Once again, the more you do here, the less you do there. So it's a personal choice, I suppose. This I'll wait for the garlic as well. Removing the core is optional because honestly, this thing is so flavorsome. I challenge you to taste the bitterness. Once again, more work here, less work there. So, garlic crusher. Nothing says punctured membranes like a garlic crusher. Perfect. Now, the majority of the salt goes in after the wet ingredients to really provide friction. Now, if you're going for a vegetarian version of the curry paste, this base is ready for you and it's good to go. For the non-vegetarians out there, we have the last ingredients to introduce, which is the umami bomb, the shrimp paste. And with the shrimp paste, moderation is key. You want the umami. You don't want to be able to detect the taste of the shrimp paste in the end product. I mean, it's by definition a paste, so you really don't need to pound it more. Now, let's make some curry pastes. For the purpose of demonstration, I've divided our base into 5 bowls. Of course, in reality, you would make much more than that, but I want to show you now how we're going to make the 5 major curries. Starting with red curry paste, the most traditional of them all. And it forms the basis for both the yellow curry and the Panang. Very simple. We have some dried spur chili from Thailand. But for this recipe, you could use any dried chilies that you like. So don't let the shopping stop you from making this. In fact, if you're making it for the first time and you don't want to handle dried chilies, just use chili powder and see if you like it. Then you can take it to the next level. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. One, you soak the dried chilies in hot water for 30 minutes. Then you pound it. My preferred method is just to do this dry, if you have a spice grinder, that is. This way, it's a lot easier and less messy. Another thing I really like to do is I like to remove the seeds from the dried chilies. The seeds mainly provide spiciness. On top of that, very little flavor. And given that I don't have the spice tolerance of a Thai person, I rather get more flavors from the actual chili flesh and ditch the seeds. You can always make this spicier in the final product. I've been told by the kind-hearted Thai lady that in Thailand they actually mix dry spur chilies with a smaller variation. But I've also been told that unless you've been eating spicy food all your life, you don't want to try that. So we're not trying that. It is at this point you want to stop touching your eyes, by the way. Again, I'll add my recommended ratio between chili and base in the description. Now, we have our spice grinder and you really want to powder this. Be very careful now with this. Brilliant. Now, we invite our pesto mortar back to the party. Now, of course, the question is how much chili powder? For me, the best answer is always you taste. So you first be a bit stingy. Now we mix. And you taste, not by putting it in your mouth unless you're suicidal. But with most curry recipes, it always works out ballpark that the liquid to curry paste ratio is about 10 to 1. So very simple, this much curry paste, 10 times the liquid. And this is not to gauge what the final product would taste like because you actually cook down the curry paste. It's to gauge whether you're achieving the optimal spiciness so that you don't waste so much effort making something that is so spicy that you can't even eat. I'm always baffled when I see people being surprised by the food they cook. Like, oh, this is punchy. Oh, this is tasty. You should never be surprised. You should always taste along the way so that by the time you put that plate in the middle of the table for your family, you know what you're serving them. So on that note, we taste. For me, that is perfect. But if you can handle spicier food, add more powder. So always go stingy and then adjust upwards. So here we have the most traditional of them all, Thai red curry paste. Now, working down the spectrum of colors, we have yellow curry. Now, there's a very important distinction in terms of what yellow curry is. In Thailand, it's a sour curry that we'll talk about in another episode. But what people in the West refer to as yellow curry, it's what the Thais consider the Indian style curry. So, very simple. It's extremely similar to the red curry with two major additions in almost equal parts. We have the Indian curry powder, of course, which you could make from scratch, and turmeric, which is what gives the yellow curry the signature color. And to that, we once again add our dry red chili powder. Now, from my research, which I found almost funny, is that yellow curry is most Thai children's introduction to spicy food, making it the least spicy variety. So we will be quite easy on the red chili powder. Once again, bring back this bad boy. Now we mix. And once again, I encourage you to taste after adding each of the three powders so you can be the best judge in terms of how much to add. Just because it says yellow curry, it doesn't mean you have to spam turmeric to make it yellow. So that's it, Thai yellow curry paste. Next up, and probably the most famous Thai curry outside of Thailand, the green curry paste, which surprisingly didn't come about until the 1920s. Now, traditionally, red and green curry paste in Thailand differs only in the choice of chilies. Red curry paste uses dry chilies, and green curry paste is the only curry paste that uses fresh chilies. Normally, the combination of a larger, milder spur chili and a smaller and nastier bird's eye chili. Now, if I were to make this for myself at home, I would just stitch the bird's eye because that's just my horrible tolerance. But for WD Kitchen, we'll use one. And once again, like I said before, I always would encourage you to remove the seeds unless you know your tolerance so well, because you're setting a ceiling in terms of how much chilies you could add. And I always prefer maximizing the flesh because that's where the flavor is. Once again, you are no longer allowed to touch your eyes. Remove the whole core. This is like my worst knife performance. What is happening? I just got so nervous. All right, and the scary one. Let's just get this over with. Now, clean pesto and water. And this you really want to start gentle because you don't want the juices to splash. The green in green curry is to describe the color of the chilies used, not the desired color of the final product. So don't stress over the color. Restaurants, of course, they have the aesthetics to care about. So they have different herbs or different things to get that picturesque color you see on Thai menus. But for the home kitchen, we solve for taste. And for this, if you're making it for the first time, I highly recommend that you make this, set this aside, mix and taste so that you can determine what's the perfect ratio before you mix everything together to make sure we don't end up with a curry paste that's too spicy. But for the purpose of demonstration, and that's it. Here we have the famous one, Thai green chili paste. Next up, we have the Panang curry, which essentially a richer and more complex version of the red curry powder. Richer because of the introduction of toasted peanuts, and more complex because of the nutmeg, the coriander seeds, and the cumin seeds. So, just like what we did earlier, we're going to lightly toast our spices. Nutcracker would come in very handy now. The peanuts been roasted, so they can go straight into the spice grinder. Perfect. Once they're lightly toasted, spice grinder. You can pound it all the way through, by the way, if you fancy a bit more arm work. I think we're on our 4th curry, so I'm done for the day. Again, the ratios will be posted in the description. Perfect. Now, we have our base. We add the same amount of chili powder as last time. And we add the peanut and spice mix. Now we can pound. The peanut would absorb some of the excess moisture from the paste. So Panang curry paste tend to be drier. Again, if this is your first time, please taste with water, not directly. Oh, the smell is incredible. And that's our Panang curry paste ready. Last up, a curry with lots of Persian influence, the Massaman curry. As you can see from the spices, we have the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the cumin seed, the coriander seed, the cardamom, the cloves, and ideally you want whole mace, but today I only have mace powder, so we're not going to toast this. And just like the previous recipes, we break this down slightly and we toast them to really let the essential oil bring out the amazing flavors. Massaman curry, if you really want to go the extra mile, is quite different from the other four, because to make an authentic version of this curry, you ought to toast the ingredients of the base as well. But today I thought for the purpose of demonstration, we do it without. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll hopefully do a deep dive into making Massaman curry from scratch. Once your spices are fragrant, meaning the whole room smells like a curry joint, which it already does, by the way. Once again, spice grinder to help you get started, which I've cleaned with some dry Thai jasmine rice in between. Perfect. And to that, we add the mace powder. Now, base. Same amount of red chili powder. Wow, it's as if I measured it for 5. Once again. And just like the Panang, because of the dry spices, Massaman curry paste is a drier paste than the first 3. And if you actually toast it, the aromatics as well, it has the driest texture amongst all the coconut-based curry pastes. Perfect. Perfect. And that's Massaman curry paste. And here we have the 5 most popular coconut-based curry pastes outside of Thailand. I hope this video would at a minimum give you some understanding in terms of what goes into the curry paste, so that the next time you go to a Thai restaurant, you could order with more confidence. If you want to try and make them, that would make my day. And in the coming weeks, we'll explore each of these 5 coconut-based curries, meaning that they're cooked with coconut cream and coconut milk. And then we'll move on to explore some other curries. These are the 5 major Thai curry pastes. I really hope you enjoy. Oh, that was tough.